Happy Monday, my people. What is going on, my LoreVerse family? So, the fandom is absolutely reeling after the explosive events of House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 2. We watched King's Landing fall to the Black faction with almost zero civilian casualties, a brilliant tactical victory that should have cemented Rhaenyra Targaryen as a calculated, just, and triumphant sovereign. But instead of a clean, heroic coronation, we were handed one of the most stomach churning, morally complex climaxes in the entire history of Westeros. Rhaenyra Targaryen took a blade and personally hacked off the head of Sir Otto Hightower. This isn't just a brutal execution, it's a massive, violent divergence from the character we've spent 2 seasons watching. The online discourse has exploded overnight. Fans and critics are fiercely debating a singular terrifying question: has Rhaenyra officially become the Mad Queen? Is she walking down the exact same dark, blood soaked path of the emotional tyranny that would eventually consume her descendant Daenerys Targaryen centuries later? Or is this the completely justified, unnecessary evolution of a mother who was given too much to a broken system? Today, we are doing a massive deep dive into the psychological collapse of Rhaenyra Targaryen, the dark lore behind her botched first kill, and the tragic reality of what happens when a ruler replaces mercy with pure nihilism. So let's break this down. This is your boy CB Hayes. This is the LoreVerse, and let's dive into this. Now, to understand how staggering this shift truly is, we have to look back at the core defining trait of Rhaenyra Targaryen throughout the first 2 seasons of the show. She was the voice of restraint. She was the one holding the dogs back, right, of war. And while Daemon wanted to burn the Red Keep to ash, while her Black Council grew increasingly impatient with her hesitation, and while the Lords of Westeros demanded blood for blood, Rhaenyra consistently chose diplomacy. She risked her own life to sneak into King's Landing in disguise just to see if a peaceful resolution with Alicent was possible. She wasn't acting out of cowardice. She was acting out of profound, sense of duty to her father, King Viserys, and a desire to protect the realm from total dragon devastation. She fiercely believed that a good queen does not rule over a graveyard. But the Battle of Gullet changed everything. The death of her son Jacaerys didn't just break her heart, it shattered her entire moral foundation. Jace was the very reason she was fighting. He was the anchor of her legacy, and the child she was trying to secure a peaceful realm for. And when his arrow riddled body was pulled from the sea, the justification of her restraint evaporated. Emma Darcy hit the nail on the head during the recent press roundtables, explaining that Jace's death simplifies things for Rhaenyra by offering her a sort of nihilism. And when you lose the very thing that you care about most, the fear of consequences vanish. Her moral guards, didn't just bend, they completely dissolved now. The diplomat who wanted to heal the realm died in the waters of the Gullet. And the woman who walked back into the cells of King's Landing was an executioner who had decided that if the world was going to be cruel to her, she would show the world exactly what a dragon is capable of. Now, look closely at the sheer unfiltered horror of the execution scene itself, because the directors and writers packed immense symbolic weight into the staging of Otto Hightower's death. Notice that Rhaenyra does not delegate this execution. She doesn't demand Daemon to do it with Dark Sister. She doesn't call for a seasoned royal headsman, nor does she use the clean, terrifying efficiency of Dragonfire. She explicitly demands the blade herself. This is an act of pure performative dominance. And Daemon did have to push her a little bit. She was a little nervous. But she wants to prove to her council, to the court, and most importantly to herself, that she possesses the absolute unflinching authority to required to hold the Iron Throne. But there's a massive problem. Rhaenyra is not a warrior. She has zero swordmanship experience. She has never swung a weapon in anger, and she has never personally taken a life. And that is why the execution descends into a clumsy, gruesome, and agonizing spectacle. It wasn't a clean, swift stroke of justice. It takes multiple messy hacking blows to finally sever Otto's head from his neck. You can legit hear the heavy, desperate thud of steel. You can see the raw, awkward exertion on her face as she struggles with the weight of the sword, surrounded by the splattering blood of her enemy. And this clumsy violence is a massive psychological indicator. It contrasts sharply with the calculated, detached justice of a seasoned, stable ruler. And this is raw, emotional frenzy miscoordinating as royal authority. And by personally hacking away at Otto, Rhaenyra is acting out of a deeply wounded, vengeful place. It signals a terrifying descent into emotional tyranny. And she isn't executing a traitor to preserve the peace. She is venting her grief on a man who started the clock on her family's destruction. Now, the visual framing of the final sequence of this episode is an absolute masterpiece of tragic foreshadowing, and it drops a massive nod to the dark future of the Targaryen dynasty. After the horrific, exhausted exertion of beheading Otto, Rhaenyra turns away from the corpse. She doesn't wash her hands, she doesn't compose herself. Shaken, breathing heavily, and emotionally detached, she begins her slow ascent onto the steps of the dais towards the Iron Throne. And with every single step she takes, she leaves a literal trail of wet, dark, bloody footprints on the cold marble floor of the Great Hall. And the directors utilized this incredibly heavy imagery to deliver profound and really a thematic message for us. Rhaenyra has finally captured the throne, but her reign has been fundamentally and permanently poisoned. She has achieved her lifelong ambition, but she had to walk through a river of blood to get there. And the sequence explicitly evokes the tragic Mad Queen trajectory of her future descent, Daenerys Targaryen. It forces the audience to confront a chilling parallel. Just like Daenerys, Rhaenyra started her journey with noble intentions, a deep love for the small folk, and a desire to break the will of systematic cruelty. But also, like Daenerys, the relentless, cascading trauma of losing her truest advisors and her children has warped her worldview. The bloody footprints signal that she can no longer separate her crown from her personal vengeance. She has conquered the seat of power, but the cause of her victory is the complete surrender of moral sanity. And beyond the psychological toll, though, Rhaenyra's brutal turn completely destroys the final bridge holding the realm back from total unrestricted war, and is her relationship with Alicent Hightower. Because think about the absolute tragedy of how this chess game unfolded. Alicent genuinely upheld her end of the incredibly risky secret Midnight Pact. She swallowed her pride, betrayed her own faction, and masterfully manipulated the Red Keep guards into opening the city gates. She handed King's Landing over to Rhaenyra on a silver platter specifically to prevent a slaughter, believing with everything she had that Rhaenyra would honor her solemn vow to show mercy to her family. And for Alicent and Helena to walk into the Great Hall moments later, expecting a tense but stable transition of power, only to find the decapitated, mutilated corpse of Otto Hightower pooling blood on the floor, is a psychological point of no return. And she does have a defense, though. She could say Aegon wasn't there, so someone had to go. You know, but by breaking her word to her closest childhood friend, though, Rhaenyra didn't just execute a political enemy, she assassinated the last remaining ounce of empathy in this war. She signaled to Alicent and to the entire realm that she is no longer bound by honor, friendship, or vows. Political ruthlessness and emotional vengeance now entirely governs her actions. Alicent's heartbreak will inevitably curdle into a cold, terrifying desire for survival and revenge, and the peace is probably dead now. And the pact, I think, is ash, and the war of the mothers, I think, has now become very personal. So, has Rhaenyra become the Mad Queen? It is really too simple to just label her as insane. What we are watching isn't the sudden onset of standard Targaryen madness. It is a logical, tragic consequence of endurable grief and systematic trauma. She tried to play the rules of honor, and it cost her Lucerys and Jacaerys. Her execution of Otto Hightower is her declaring to the world that she is done bleeding in silence. But in doing so, she has become the very monster she was trying to defeat. She has stepped onto the bloody path of tyranny, and the history tells us once you start walking that path, there's no turning back. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Do you think Rhaenyra has officially crossed into the line of madness, or was hacking off Otto Hightower's head the exact kind of ruthlessness, that the realm needed for her to secure her crown? And how do you think Alicent will play her cards now that her father has passed? Drop your theories and your comments down below. Cannot wait to read them and start convos. We're with you guys. Have a great day. Stay crispy. Until the next time. Peace out.